For this first series of practice, we're going to be using white paper with black charcoal. And starting out, I want you to make three small rectangles in the bottom corner of one of your white, just regular drawing papers. So those are the larger square papers that were in your art kit. But I'm just, again, using the corner here, making a large rectangle that's about 5 or 7 inches by maybe 3 or 4 in height. And then I'm just dividing this into 3 separate rectangles. So this is where you're going to be practicing hatching, cross-hatching, and shading using the black charcoal on the white paper here. When you go to pick the charcoal that you're going to use, I would start with the 6B, which works better for shading because it's a softer charcoal, so it's going to fall off of the charcoal piece just a little bit easier versus the 2B charcoal or the 2H charcoal that's going to be a harder charcoal that's used for more outlining. So when we get to outlining portraits and things like that, I would use the 2H for that. But shading and filling in value change is a lot easier using the softer 6B pencil. So I'm starting with the hatching, and I'm making the left side darker and then fading into the right side for the lighter value. As I get towards the right side, I'm starting to lighten the pressure with the charcoal and starting to space my lines further and further apart. And then I'm going to go over this a few times. That way I can really emphasize the contrast. So on these, I want to see sections that are completely black and then sections that are completely white. And I want to see a good transition between those. So again, just really practice with the amount of pressure that you have with the charcoal. And that will really help to emphasize the difference between dark and light. And now I'm going in with cross-hatching. I like to start at a diagonal for this, but if you wanted to still do hatching vertically before you cross and go the opposite direction, you can. But I like to go at an angle here so that I can then switch, go the other angle, and then if I need to go vertically as well, just to emphasize that transition a little bit more, I still can. But same thing, I'm just making sure that I am shading a lot or pressing a lot harder with the charcoal on the left side where it's darker, making those lines really close, overlapping them as much as possible. And then I'm starting to pull those lines apart and fade them into the lightest section. And I decided to go over it one more time. Again, I want to really see those dark areas and those light areas with a very smooth transition. So when I say a smooth transition, you shouldn't be able to pick out one specific spot where the value is different. So you shouldn't be able to see one line where one half is dark and the other half is light. So make sure that it all fades really well. And now I'm going in with shading. When you're shading with charcoal, I would recommend using little circles. So I'm just doing lots of smaller circles. And you'll notice too that I'm not making them all the exact same size. So some I'm extending out further, and then others I'm making a little bit closer together. And this way you won't be able to see lines in your shading. So that's something to stay away from with shading. It should be completely smooth without seeing any lines while you're blending it. So again, small circles work well, but make some circles kind of jet out further than others. And same thing with hatching and cross-hatching. As I get towards that white side, I'm really making those circles a lot larger, but I'm also pressing really lightly with the charcoal. And now I'm going back in with another layer here. Just really try to emphasize that value change, really try to push the dark values, make those darker, and the light values as light as possible too. Which is very difficult, I know, with charcoal, but try your best to just really lightly press and know that you can always go back over areas if you need to. So I'm going over that dark area one more time and just going over everything to really fade it all together the best that I can.